Hello, everyone, and welcome to Developing Palates. I'm Aaron Loomis, and along with me is June Liu. How you doing, June?
Good. Little chilly weather today, but it's good. Still good cigar time.
Yep, yep, absolutely. So today we are talking about the Warped Futuro Selección Suprema, and this is the cigar that was, or the Vitola that was picked by Kyle from Warped in the collaboration between him and Max Fernandez from Casa Fernandez. This cigar measures in at 5.6 inches by 46 ring gauge. It is rolled out of the Tabsa factory in Nicaragua. Wrapper is Nicaraguan Corojo 99, binders Nicaraguan Criollo 98, and the filler is Nicaraguan Criollo 98 and Corojo 99. As I said, it was blended by Kyle Gellis and Max Fernandez. Price point on this cigar is $8.75, and this one was released in July of 2015. So with that being said, we can get into our pre-light experience. So what was your experience with the pre-light, June?
I thought kind of typical of a lot of Corojo wrappers at Anika. It looks good. It's got good oil content on the wrapper. I didn't feel any inconsistencies in the roll. No soft spots. The head felt like it had like a good little give, so I assume there's no draw issues to that end. The only thing was there was this one main vein that was running up from the foot to the band.
Mm-hmm.
So just a presentation thing. It's not going to affect the smoking experience, but that perhaps could have got pressed a little better on the Vitola press.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the aromas, nosing the wrapper, a lot of typically when I say barnyard, it's just typical barnyard, regular barnyard, but I got a lot of fresh, pungent barnyard out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I did put this in my review, but it's almost like wet socks,
Right.
which is a good thing in cigar terms.
Yeah.
So, and then when I was nosing the foot, got a lot of pungent white pepper spice,
Mm-hmm.
roasted dried nuts, a lot of just good quality cedar, cold draw, dry cardboard, kind of a little bit of a lip numbing spice, like a white pepper spice. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, a good pre-light experience. How
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah, same for me. Nice medium brown wrapper. I had kind of I think two of those veins that you're talking about. They didn't run the length that they did for yours, but they were one kind of ran like maybe from the bottom of the cap down a little bit past the band, and then the other one ran up from the foot to halfway to the band. But it was like you said, it's not anything that's going to be a construction issue, just a little bit of presentation there. And the coloring like right around the veins was a little bit lighter than the rest of the wrapper. So just to, you could definitely pick them out just because of the color differential there. Wrap lines were slightly visible, but they were still wrapped tight, so good. The caps were okay. The edges were lifting a little bit, but otherwise fine. Not much. I couldn't get much aroma from the wrapper. Just maybe a really faint leather. And then the foot was barnyard and a little bit of light sweet hay. And from the pre-light, I got some smooth leather and a little bit of graham cracker in there as well. So it was a pretty good pre-light experience with this cigar.
Nice.
So in terms of flavor, take us through your experience, first third to final third.
Yeah. So first, third initial drawing on it, you taste that Corojo 99 spice. I mean, it's such an overwhelming, deep and rich spice.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, that kind of tapered down after about half an inch or so. The flavor spectrum and the profile really opened up at that point. Gave me a lot of dark cocoa, this particular baking spice that I couldn't exactly put my finger on. Got some good sweet cream, and got a lot of charred wood. So a lot of rustic, earthy flavors.
Mm-hmm.
The finish was a lingering charred wood, dry black pepper spice. And when I tried to retrohale it within the first third, I couldn't do it because the spice was so pungent
Yeah.
that it'll almost it basically made me choke,
Uh-huh.
but without actually choking,
Right.
because I just blew the rest out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And then about 2 inches in, the flavors open up once again. So I got a lot of dark roasted coffee. I got a sweet increase in the sweet creaminess as well.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, within the first third, body and strength wise, I thought the body was a solid medium. The strength was a medium, but I kind of felt like, oh man, this thing's going to get stronger as I continue on.
Right.
So getting into the second third, the strength definitely did get to a solid medium full. And the way the second third started was kind of how it ended within the first third.
Mm-hmm.
So by about, I would say, smoking another inch or so of the second third, I felt like the black pepper spice taper down. So that was a good thing because I felt like when that happened, the flavor profile was able to better mend and balance each other out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then at that point, I was able to actually perform full retrohale. But the black pepper was still really strong, um, but it was nonetheless, good to do that full retrohale and taste what that was like through the nose.
Right.
Something I wanted to bring up with this one was just talking to different people, which I respect in the industry and in their palate, which I purposely am not going to name. I don't know if they want me to name them. So I've heard like within especially a lot of the Aganorsa stuff's out, the way Corojo tastes versus the way Criollo tastes.
Mm-hmm.
Corojo kind of gives you that more of a makes your kind of mouth water, makes your palate more like a mouth watering kind of a taste.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Criollo, you could kind of namely taste it out of the retrohale, and it's a drier profile.
Right.
So I felt like within this cigar, within the entire smoking experience, it was always like at certain draws, it'll be really dry, and I taste that Criollo.
Mm-hmm.
And then at other draws, I would taste more of that mouth watering. But I did drink a fair amount of water in it because I felt like every time I had that dryness, I always go for a sip of water when that happens to me.
Right.
So getting to the last third. So it started out kind of the way the second third ended, which I noted, taper black pepper spice, still had that same baking spice, got that charred wood. I got some dried biscuits out of it and semi-sweet cream. But about an inch and a half into the last third, I started picking up a slight bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, the bitterness wasn't overshadowing the other mentioned flavors.
Right.
So that was good. And at that point, the cigar got a little bit hot for me as well. But nothing that's, again, that's a game changer or game ender, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of strength, still at a medium full. Body still at a medium.
Right. Okay.
What about you?
Yeah, for me, right on initial light up, I got a really flavorful campfire note with a little bit of spice. But after a few draws, the campfire went away, and the spiciness really picked up, and it was I was identifying it as a spicy cinnamon, and had a little bit of woody background there. And then a few more draws in, the flavor level kind of mellowed out a little bit. I guess maybe kind of everything kind of blended together, and it kind of just tapered off a little bit. But spicy cinnamon still primary flavor, still with the woody background. But the retrohale actually kind of flipped those ratios. So the woodiness was primary, and the cinnamon was kind of the background on the retrohale. So it was a little interesting how that kind of does that. But 3/4 of an inch in or so, cream started flooding in, and became the primary flavor with the cinnamon now more in the background. The wood kind of went away at that point. And then right around the inch mark, the cinnamon completely went away, and it was just really creamy wood. And the retrohale was pretty much identical to that. And as the third went along, the creaminess and the woodiness really was blending together, real well. Second third pretty much continued how the first third was ending, but then the wood ramped up, and it took on a little bit more of a cedar characteristic for a few draws. And then that cedar kind of morphed into a bit of a charred oak with a little bit of pepper there as well. And then midway through that third, the char backed off, but the oak was still there, and a little bit of black coffee came in into the background. And then the coffee was kind of going in and out, for the remainder of that third. And then right kind of near the end of the third, a little bit of minerality came in for me. And then getting into the final third, the minerality that I was getting from the second third was in the retrohale, but in the final third, then it started to come into the mouth flavor. So it was in the mouth flavor and on the retrohale. But the retrohale got even creamier and still maintained a little bit of the minerality that I was getting previously. And then the char came back for me. And then the smoke just became really full. I don't know, call it a meatiness or whatever it is, but it had so much more volume, not the amount, but just in, I don't know, density, I guess would be the right word to say. So it just got the smoke became more dense at that point. And then as the third kind of went along, I started to get that drying smoke that you were talking about. It popped in for me in that final third. So it was primarily woody flavor with a little bit of cream, but it was still a drying smoke. So the woodiness, it was just like almost like kind of licking on a dry piece of wood. Like you're getting that, your tongue getting dry, but you get tasting that wood flavor. But for me, the strength level was pretty much medium the entire way through. I didn't really have any. I mean, it might have been like slightly below medium in the first third and increased to like just slightly above medium at the end, but it wasn't big enough to really say it was large transitions in strength. It was just very, very incremental. So how about performance-wise, burn and draw for you? How'd that go?
The burn rate, I thought it was pretty solid. I got a good 107 minutes that I timed out of it. So out of basically like a, I guess, Corona Gorda-ish size cigar.
Right.
Really good burn rate. I felt like the ash held on pretty strong. I got good, solid, 1.5-inch ash marks. Fairly solid. But the downside of it was I had to relight twice, once in the second third and once in the last third. And this is just, when I was smoking it, the cigar just went out for some random whatever reason.
Right.
So I, relit it, which is not a huge deal because, after, simple purge, the flavor profile picked up right again. So there wasn't any unfavorable notes because of the relights. I thought the draw was great. I thought that it had just the right amount of give without, you know that you're smoking a cigar and you're drawing on a cigar, but pretty effortless, but still knowing that you're drawing on it, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Yeah, for me, the burn was kind of the tale of two burns. So the first half of the cigar was an amazing burn. It was razor straight, no problems at all. Right about the midway point, half of the wrapper burned, the other half was not burning on one half of the side, and then the smoke started to get pretty light. So I was afraid that it was going to go out. So rather than hoping it was going to correct itself or that it would go out, I decided I was going to go ahead and touch up that other side. So I did that, and actually worked out pretty well. It made it pretty much through the rest of that third. But in that final third, I ran into the problems that you ran into, where the cigar was just going out, and I think I relit in the final third 4 or 5 times. So it was like I would get maybe 4 draws, and then poof, it's gone. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what was happening there, but yeah, similar to you there. Draw was very good. Just slightly tighter than I prefer, but nothing wrong with that. Didn't affect the performance at all. Just a slight, a slight bit tighter than what I prefer as what I consider as the perfect draw. So, all right. Overall, what were your thoughts on this cigar?
I thought that this was a fairly it was a robust smoke. It was a lot of rich flavors, a lot of rich earthiness. I also felt like this was sharp. I felt like it was a little edgy.
Hmm.
And I'm mainly speaking in terms of like the black pepper spice, as well as the charred wood notes. They were really strong. So within the other flavors that I was mentioning, you kind of had a it doesn't jump out you as much
Right.
because of those two flavors. So kind of what that said, it's not as balanced as I would have liked.
Hmm.
Um, for me, the second and last third was more of my liking,
Hmm.
whereas where I felt like the flavors um, were still tasty and robust, but it was a little bit more balanced. I think at this point it was kind of like an average cigar for me because of the sharpness.
Hmm.
But I do think that this is a good aging cigar.
Right.
In general, I think that most things that pump out of Aganorsa will be great to lay down and try, in a year or two or even 6 months.
Right.
What about you?
Yeah, I think you and I are kind of opposites in what we liked about this cigar. So for me, the first third was the best, and the second final third was not as good. Um, I think the kind of in my face flavors that I was getting in that first third, like the campfire right off the bat, and then the intense cinnamon with a lot of cream, that had me kind of excited. But then in the second and the final third, where it got to be primarily creamy wood with a little bit of pepper, mix in a little bit of coffee, a little bit of minerality. That kind of seemed to that it tailed off from what it was starting as. So, I mean, maybe if it didn't start out so in your face,
Right.
I might be more on track with how it was going. Um, but when you hit me with that and it's flavors I like and it's the intensity I like, and then it drops off, then it's kind of like, all right, now I'm stepping back. What cigar is it? Kind of what am I expecting here? So, I mean, I was super excited about it through the first third, and if it would kept going like that, then this would have been a really high scoring cigar for me. But I think the burn, it just it was unfortunate that had the burn went the way it did after how it was the first half of the cigar. It kind of just let it down. The relights, I'm sure, it had some effect on the flavor in the final third. So, and I'm hoping maybe trying another and having a better burn and see if that might enhance the flavors that I get kind of the second half of the cigar.
Yeah, 'cause
Um,
we put this guy, humidors for a good a month or so
yeah,
before we lit it up, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, um, but I mean, I definitely think anybody could. This is pretty much approachable for any cigar, at least based on my experience with the strength. I mean, for you, um, you're pepper averse sometimes. So if it's a little too much in your face, it has an effect on you. But for me, I thought it was just medium the whole way through. So
Mm.
I think, if people line up with my palate, they, in strength level, then it's not going to be a big deal for them to have it pretty much any time of the day. But I would say, like you said, anybody can give this a shot, and age will probably definitely do some good for it as well. So
Mm.
it's something that you can try now, lay a couple down, and then try them 6 months down the road, and then try it again in a year, 2 years, and see how kind or how poor age is done for it. But
Yeah.
otherwise, yeah.
Yeah.
So score wise, I gave this a 6.6, and you gave it a 5.93. So how do you think the score shook out for you?
I think that's in line with what I was thinking.
Hmm.
Just kind of within the first, second, and last third of the smoking experience, I kind of just said average, average. I said um, average, good, average.
Yeah.
So second, third was when I felt like the cigar kind of hit the mark for me.
Hmm.
Um, but kind of like that 109 story that we reviewed. The burn kind of killed it.
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad as that 109 because that 109, I mean, I really the shit out of it. So,
Hmm.
but hey, that's it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I do feel like um, that this is in line with what I am expecting out of Aganorsa tobacco.
Hmm.
Um, but I can also say that I enjoy other brands and cigars, in the warp profile, as well as, for instance, Illusione that I feel like has more of that balance in it.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my favorite things of getting into cigars is approaching a cigar engaging ageability.
Right.
So I'm excited to let this one sit, and perhaps we could do a revisit down the road and see how it has changed. And I'm
Right.
guessing at that point I'll like it a lot better.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Score wise, I think I scored it fairly well for how it lined up. I kind of talk about the difference between the first third and the other two thirds, and it's not that the other thirds were bad. It was just that it was a big transition between the two of them. So the flavors were still good in the second third and the final third. It was just they were just very different. So I think that's kind of why the score stayed fairly high for me. It was, the burn. It's not gonna kill the score on it, but it does have a bit of an effect. So I have to take that into consideration. But like you said, maybe we do a revisit on this cigar down the road and see if that changes kind of our experience with it. Maybe it helps a little bit with the burn issues. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
All right. Any other comments on this cigar?
So this is one of the cigars in which we did a line comparison on. So I encourage you guys to check out our article on that when it comes out soon. For you guys to kind of get a glimpse of how we thought both the 109 and the Suprema compared to each other, and how this little friendly battle between Kyle and Max did.
Yep. Cool. So yeah, thank you for joining us. If you're just catching this on YouTube, be sure to go to the website, developingpalates.com, to check out the full review. Please follow us on all the social media, subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Google+, all those great places. Yeah, so thank you for joining us. We will catch you on the next episode. Thanks a lot, Jiunn.
Thank you.